swinging a drive, right field and deep. Back goes Aquino. It's got a chance. Gone. Get out the tape measure. Long gone. Fly the W.
Cubs fans, it's time to fly the W with Dustin Rhodes and Paul Crawly Jean.
All right, Crawly, this is the Fly the W podcast, part of the Blue Wire Network, and it is CubsCon 2026 recap and review. This is episode number 333. You can download, you can subscribe, you can follow us on all the different places. We want you to review the podcast, follow on all the socials. Check out what's up with me at Mully and Haw on X.
And you can follow me at Crawly's Cubs on X, Blue Sky, and TikTok, and Crawly's Clubhouse on Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, and Threads. You could email us at crawlysclubhouse@gmail.com. And if you are watching on YouTube, make sure to subscribe and hit that little bell so you know when we are going live anytime.
Well, Crawly, you and I both got down to CubsCon in different roles. I also consumed a lot of it on Friday night from the comfort of my couch and watched it on Marquee. But let's start with you, because this was number what again? How many in a row?
26 in a row.
26 CubsCons in a row. Obviously, 2020 we didn't have a CubsCon, but so let's.
We did in 2020. We did not in 21 and 22.
You know what I meant. Anyway,
I know.
So what was your? Let's talk about it. You know, the good. Let's talk about the good. Let's start out. Let's be positive. Let's start with the positives.
I mean, obviously, anytime you get to see the 2016 Cubs, that was just a huge moment. We'll talk more about that later. You know, for me, seeing a lot of friends that I don't get to see all the time, whether professional or just Cub fans, you know, like my Club 400 friends, we are always there. It's a great get together for all of us. Seeing the people that I see every day when the baseball season's going on, Bleacher Jeff, Danny Rocket, Mai Tai, Rachel, just, you know, just everybody who's there, the people that work at Wrigley, Wayne Messmer, JT Real Muto, both of the organists, John Benedict, Josh Langhoff, Miguel Esparza, Elio Benitez, you know, there's so many to remember that it's just fun to see everybody. Obviously you're going to be excited. This is a team that exceeded our expectations last year and was, you know, one game away from the NLCS. You know, it was a fun season, a lot of great comebacks. You know, but I think in the, you know, the excitement of having Bregman, Edward Cabrera there, definitely something that had fired the people, you know, this going in a position. So I, all in all, that was, and I was able to get graphs. I got Albert on a team, so I only guys left. Lee Dexter not so I wasn't able to get him off the list, and Arrieta, Rondon, and Baez were not at the Cubs convention, so that'll have to wait for another day. I got a nice piece signed by Lee Smith, nice caricature, and then I got some Miggy Montero autographs from the NLCS Game 1 Grand Slam, which I think is something that all Cub fans will always remember. So just in general, there was a lot.
Montero's your guy, right? For those that don't know, you presented him, right, with his World Series ring.
Yeah, and I have actually the jersey that both of us wore that day, and it's framed, and so, but it's a big piece that I have on my Cubs Cave wall. But in the end, I'm going to put 4 small 8x10s underneath it of that Grand Slam. So I'm still working on a couple projects, but I was able to knock a few out of the way in a fun weekend. But as I always tell people, I mean, how can you go wrong spending? I got there Thursday night. And Thursday night's just a lot of fun because at the hotel you can kind of like hang out and it's just not crowded yet. And you kind of see some different players. I was sitting there, you know, at the bar with Bill Madlock.
Oh,
for those people that remember the great Bill Madlock, and then, you know, kind of talking with, you know, just friends and stuff like that.
No, I'm surprised. I have to be honest here, Crawly. I'm surprised you and some of that crew did not try to get over to Wrigley and catch some of these guys getting off the bus for their big party.
It's cold, Dustin, and the whole
maybe
point
maybe
of
when it was yours, maybe when it was your 6th Cubs Con in a row, you might have done that, but not at 26.
well, it's first off, I knew it was pretty private. They were just not going to let people get too close, is my understanding. So
Yeah.
even the people that did take good photographs took them they made everyone kind of across the street by the firehouse.
Uh-huh.
So a lot of the good photos that you did see from that ended up being from like telescopic lenses and stuff like that. So
Okay.
I think I would have been all right without it. And when you get to the Cubs, like you want to get down there, you want to like unpack, get your stuff out, kind of chill out a little bit, get the room settled, then go down and grab some dinner. It's just kind of like the calm before the storm that is CubsCon, and it definitely was a storm. I know, we're talking about the good, but we also got to talk about the bad. Again, I'm not trying to toot my own horn, but I know CubsCon. I've been to enough of these, whether they were at the Hilton, whether they've been at the Sheraton. I know the ins and out. I know every single doorway, every single hallway. There's nothing that will catch me off guard. Usually, I'm going to put that in there because there was something that caught me off guard this year that kind of bothered me. But for people that were maybe going to their first CubsCon, this was not the greatest experience. The excitement over the CubsCon, a lot of people believe it was oversold. I can't give you numbers, but it definitely was uncomfortably crowded, I guess I would say. Now, that didn't affect me that much because I'm first in line all the time to get into Cubs, to opening ceremonies, to get into bingo. But for people that came, say like at 3:00, 3:30 to get there when they opened the doors at 5:30 for opening ceremonies, they weren't letting people upstairs. So they were creating it was that crowded. So if you weren't there by, let's say like 2:30, maybe 3:00, chances are you missed opening ceremonies, which of course is what a lot of people want to get into. So I know there's a lot of
Yeah,
anger.
that's why you came, right? Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And so what do you do if there's no opening ceremonies? You miss that. There's a lot of people that missed out on bingo. They didn't get there in time and stuff like that. So again, if you're somebody that's not a veteran that knows what they're doing and the tricks of the trade, you might have had a really not so great time. A lot of the 2016 guys did not sign. I mentioned Dexter Fowler, stuff like that. A lot of the big names, Rizzo, they had a contest that you could win and get that way. But like the meet and greets, there just wasn't a ton of 2016 Cubs, which I think was another thing that people were looking forward to. I guess the thing that bothers me the most, and it's just my own personal gripe, but every year they, always reserve like one row of seats for like families and execs and stuff like that. This year, the first 3 rows were all reserved, right? And so when the doorways open to CubsCon and everybody kind of comes running and I'm the first person, I'm trying to get the first row. All of a sudden I take a look and every first row seat was reserved and I couldn't sit there. So
now you're going backwards and you're not able to get because the people behind you saw what was going on.
Right.
Guess, right. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Right. And so it's like, if it's a fan convention, why are the first 3 rows and everything reserved? You know what I mean?
Unless they were doing some type of a lottery or something, you know what I
Nope.
mean? Like a contest. No, I'm saying that, then I could understand it. Right. But then you would have known that lottery was going on. Right. Then that would make sense.
Right.
Yeah. That's kind of weird. My only thing, like from watching again Friday on my couch, right. I would have liked to have heard a couple people talk. Not everybody, obviously, because you'd have been there all night, right? But maybe Joe Madden, maybe Ben Zobrist, right? Gets to say something.
Talk, yeah. Joe Madden.
No. I'm saying when they were introduced, when Cole did his intros.
Okay, so they never do any talking on the intros, but
but I'm saying because of 2016, that's my point. Because
what was weird about 2016 is that they didn't introduce the guys individually. That's normally what happens. So they'll normally introduce the guy. Nobody ever has the mic, even when you're like the Cubs Hall of Famer for the year, or even Rhino last year. They never give anyone the mic. It's all set up so that it's Tom Ricketts does his little.
I get that. I thought we were having a bitch session, what we didn't like about it, right? I mean, I thought I understand all that, Crawly, but the other thing, like because of 2016, and I appreciate the Cubs Hall of Fame. I think it's a really cool thing that they have going on. And I appreciate, in order to have the 2016 team, you needed all those guys going way back to help get the Cubs to where they're going. We're going to talk about the 150th anniversary, but I thought the 2016 guys should have not been in the back row. They should have been in the front row. We didn't need
Right.
the young up and coming Cubs that, that you barely know. Okay. We know the names, but I mean, you haven't even really done a deep dive on some of these guys yet. They don't need to be in the front row. Like that should have been the 2016 Cubs. They were in the back. It's like nobody puts baby in the corner. That just didn't make any sense to me why those guys were in the back. I understand why the young guns were introduced first. They should have went right to the back, not sat there.
Yeah, what was interesting, I guess, to me is that every year they do they do it by name. Everyone's introduced. This year they did, okay, here are the minor leaguers. Like they didn't, and then they just listed them. Here's some alumni, and they just, and then they just rattled off the names.
And they didn't come in order, right? It wasn't one by one, right? They just shouted out the names and they came out. It's still very cool to see these guys. Don't get me wrong. I just wanted from a guy that was watching it on his couch, I wanted more of 2016 Cubs in that,
right. I think
on the opening ceremony part of it.
I think those guys should have been individually named. I
Yes.
think that was a huge mistake. But I will tell you that every year the Cubs send out a survey, right? And so they ask you. This is going back, and this was a big deal. I remember with when I broke the story years ago that the Ricketts weren't doing the family forum, and that was like a big deal. And they're like, well, according to our survey, so they say they take the survey serious. Now, I want to say, I'm trying to remember the year. After CubsCon, my brain's a little scrambled always, especially the older I get, the harder it gets. But right around 2012, 2013, they moved from the Hilton on Michigan Avenue, which was the greatest location for a CubsCon, just perfectly suited, huge ballroom, plenty of doors. They had multiple rooms. They would run multiple sessions. You had room to breathe. To the Sheraton. So it goes over the Sheraton. I want to say 2012, 2013, right around there. And the Sheraton is just not designed for it. There's a lot of escalators. There's not a lot of space. And especially in the ballroom area where the 670, the score was set up, and where I saw you, Dustin, like from the doors to the escalator, it is about like 30 feet. Like it doesn't take long for that place to get packed. And so it's just not a great venue to have this type of event. Now, my understanding is that this is the last year of the contract with the Sheraton, the 2026 CubsCon. So next year, 2027, the Cubs convention could technically be anywhere. And you and I were talking earlier. It could be McCormick Place, could be Wrigley Field, could be maybe back at the old Hilton, God willing. But I'm looking here. This is a survey, and the Cubs always put out the survey. What did you like best? What did you like this? There were some questions in this year's survey that I think people need to pay attention to, because it kind of I feel like the Cubs are kind of making some very specific questions. The very simple question, what was your favorite program or experience from this year's Cubs convention? They do that every year, no big deal. But the next question, Dustin, would you prefer the ability to pre-register for CubsCon's most popular events? Opening ceremony, bingo, player autographs. That would be something completely new that would not cause the problems that happened this year with people not getting into bingo opening ceremony. Then people wouldn't be waiting. Some people wait overnight on Friday night. They wait all Friday for autographs until Saturday morning. So, I mean, that would eliminate some of that stuff. But I was very shocked. I know that like a team like the Cardinals do pre-registration for autographs and stuff like that, because I wanted to get Wilson Contreras before, and I didn't make my way down there, but it was something I was looking into. So I know other teams do it that way. The next question, how important is it that the CubsCon venue have an on-site hotel? To me, it is important, but it shows me that they're open to not doing a place where there is a on-site hotel. I would not like that. I would not want to be driving. I would not want to be like lugging around like all my stuff everywhere. I like having a room and be able to pop up and down. The last question here that I'm looking at, please share your level of satisfaction with the Sheraton Grand Chicago as the venue for this year's Cubs convention. That has never been asked in at least however 12, 13 years that it's been there. So I'm very interested to see what CubsCon looks like next year. My question would then be, okay, it may be something completely different that we've never experienced. And I think the Cubs are moving in that direction.
Yeah, we'll wait and see. I mean, I do like the fact that they ask the people going what they want. I think it's good to ask your people, right? Your audience, your P1s, if you will, what they want out of this. And I mean, if they take action, that's all you can ask for, right? At least they're giving you the opportunity to voice opinions on what you think. And I'd like the listeners of this podcast to drop us a line, Crawly, and let us know, what they think, what they did like, what they didn't like. And maybe we can help get that word out from our listeners of the podcast. We can share those thoughts with others that might be able to get something done. But let's move into some of the newsier items and the real positive stuff. And let's kind of, I guess we're going to work backwards. We've got 5 things to talk about. And number 5, this was put together by you, but I'm in agreement with most of it. The Cubs revealing their 150th anniversary logo.
Yeah, this is exciting. The Cubs are one of the founding charter members of the National League. And so the Cubs were founded in 1869, became part of the National League in 1876. So to celebrate their 150th anniversary, the Cubs revealed a couple different things. And they've done this before. This was done the year I was born, Dustin, 1976. This was the 100-year logo and patch. This year, this is the official logo, the Chicago Cubs logo, and you can see 1876 to 2026. So you can see that right there. And the cool thing I like about it from a graphic design standpoint, they kept the traditional C, but instead of where it says UBS, it has 150.
I think it's well done. I like it. Now, is this a patch that they'll wear, right? Is this something
that is not a patch? There's a separate patch, and this patch looks like this right here, Dustin, on the jersey.
I like that too. Well, look, you ask and you shall receive.
I got you, buddy. Don't worry. But that has again
cool.
the years.
That's a cool patch. Like I would like I'm not a big jersey guy. I would like a t-shirt with that patch on the sleeve like that. I think that's
a jersey.
Really cool. A jersey. Yes. I'm not a big jersey guy.
Right. So that right there is kind of the you could take a look here, and it's got like a diamond shape if you're watching on the YouTube channels, and I think it blends better into the jersey. Yeah. So I think that's why they went that direction.
And then the Motorola on the other sleeve, right?
Yeah, of course. And then you'll see this is the other logo though, Dustin. Yeah, you'll see this on this hat right here.
Oh,
you can see you can see on the side of the side panel of the hat the official logo, not the patch. So they're going to kind of, I'm sure, using both. Now, Dustin, they're going to do this, and I know
sell a lot of merch with that stuff on it, Crawly.
Oh, a lot of merch. I already bought some stuff, and so
of course you did.
Yeah, I bought pins and all sorts of tchotchkes and stuff with the logo on it. But one thing that I think is going to be kind of funny and silly at the same time, they're going to do a lot of different things to recognize the 150-year history of the Chicago Cubs. But one thing I thought was funny is they're going to be doing voting. Dustin, this 100-year vote. You're going to vote for the anniversary team. And, we're going to talk a little bit about the Cubs Hall of Fame because Crane Kenny was on Inside the Clubhouse talking about recency bias. Like, do you think anyone's going to vote for Cap Anson over Joe Madden? No. Like when you're talking about 150 years history, I mean, how many people,
well, just because the people around now don't remember, right? I mean, they
right. Or study the history.
Right.
Like if do you know who Hank Sauer is? Do you know who Hack Wilson is? You know what I mean? These are
Hack Wilson. Yeah, I know who Hack Wilson is, right?
Right. Hank Sauer, 1952 MVP. He was the original Mr. Cub, and so there's a lot of guys that I think people are just not going to remember. But in general, I think the logo is going to be good, and I'm very interested to see what kind of promotions the Cubs are going to have to tie in with the 150-year anniversary logo.
Yep.
When we talk about number 4, that is going to be remembering Rhino. Obviously, this is the first convention since the death of our beloved Ryne Sandberg. He is one of the reasons the Cubs convention exists today. He attended nearly, he attended nearly every single one, except when he was manager of the Phillies. And I felt like the Cubs did just a really good job of keeping his spirit alive. on that stage where everyone's announced that we were talking about earlier. You can take a look right here. They had this. This is a picture I took myself. They had a Forever shirt, an Obvious shirt, the 23. They had the Rhino hat from Obvious shirt. They had a Sandberg.
Yeah, that was well done. I will. They do a great job with that kind of stuff. They really do. They are very thoughtful. It is laid out well. I thought that was, I know we're talking baseball, right? I thought that was a grand slam, Crawly, how they put that out there. That I thought that was really, really exceptionally done. Kudos to whoever in the Cubs is in charge of that kind of stuff. Because again, I thought as a fan, and when I saw that, and I saw a couple of his former teammates kind of go over there, almost like a tombstone, if you will, right? Kind of a thing, and honoring, putting their hands on his memorabilia. I thought that was just top notch.
Yeah, you could see his MVP and Gold Glove there, but the one that I think you're talking about most, the one that I saw that literally like got on a knee and put his hand on it, was Andre Dawson.
Yes, that was the one for sure. I thought Jody recognized it as well. If I remember, I thought there were a couple of guys that that recognized, but yes, it was Andre that did the most with it. Yes.
And then obviously they had on the windows, they always have big giant things with the players and stuff. And they had one for Rhino right there, which was really cool. The 23 that they had in front of the 23 that they had in front of the whatchamacallit, the statue, they brought it a couple times. They brought it to the hotel. They had that in front of the statue after Rhino passed away. And that was also from his statue ceremony.
That's a good pick.
And then at the very end, they had the Remembering Rhino session that was done by Cole Wright. Cole is going to be on the podcast. Probably taking a look at the next podcast we have. We'll have Cole Wright on to kind of talk a little bit about it. But there you go from left to right is Jody Davis, Andre Dawson, Bobby Dernier, Sean Dunston, and Rick Sutcliffe. It was the last session. You could see kind of like how they have the flowers. It kind of almost was like a wake. You know what I mean? In the background in that upper right corner, Dustin, if you can look behind where Rick Sutcliffe is, they kept showing all these amazing pictures of Rhino throughout his career. And it was emotional. I'm not going to lie. That was very difficult. And I think that, Dunston could barely keep it together. You could tell he was really struggling. Sut always puts on a good show, but the guy, it was tough. Sut read a text that he got from Margaret Sandberg, Rhino's wife, saying, "I wish I could be there, give the Cub fans my best, but it's still too hard for me right now." One of Rhino's sons and daughter-in-law and his latest granddaughter was there. But they talked about it, and I mentioned earlier is Rick Sutcliffe told the story back then about how at the time, when John McDonough wanted to do that Cubs Con, it kind of came into a situation where the players didn't want to show up. Like, no offense, if most of these guys live in Arizona or some, we have a lot of Latino players live in tropical areas. Why do you want to come to Chicago when, Dustin, it's what feels like -13 right now?
Mm-hmm.
And basically McDonough asked Sut, "Can you please get Sandberg to come? Because if he comes, everybody else will come." And he said that once Rhino agreed, everybody else fell in line. And that's what you ended up having. So just a beautiful session. I recorded it, so I'm going to try to get it on the YouTube channel. So I'll let our listeners know next time we're here where they can find it. But it really was worth paying attention to, and a very somber yet wonderful remembrance of a great player.
Now, I know I bitched about it in the beginning, but the Cubs did announce there are 3 new members of their Hall of Fame class. I'm not bitching about the Cubs Hall of Fame. I'm just bitching that I wanted the 2016 Cubs front and center. But a nice group of guys. I know they wanted to try to get Rizzo into this class, but he didn't fit all the criteria as far as being retired long enough, right?
I guess when we so here's what I'm going to say about that is that, like, I don't understand. Well, I guess as we talk about it, it'll kind of make more sense why I kind of get a little bit irritated about that. But I think when we talk about it, here's Crane on Inside the Clubhouse talking about eligibility.
Each year, postseason, we get together and talk about qualified players. Our great team historian Ed Hardig puts together an exhaustive list with amazing data and support for players. And you are not eligible to be in the Cubs Hall of Fame until you have finished 5 years outside our organization. So a player like Anthony Rizzo has not done that, so was not on the ballot. And it is, and Bruce, you're there for these scrums, which include, a dozen media members and former Hall of Famers. It's really hard, and you should speak to this. Like, there's incredibly qualified, not just players, but people. And so, like Vince Lloyd, we have one of the issues we have, because we really kind of put emphasis behind the Hall of Fame in the last 5 years. When you go back in time, there are players and others who gave so much to our organization, like Vince Lloyd, that it's hard to really see them getting in on the 75% vote. You need to get 75% of the ballots to get in, because they're just, not quite as relevant because of the recency. So we created a new category this year where we said, listen, if you have committed a lifetime of service to our organization, even if it may be someone who is no longer with us, someone who played maybe in the early, teens, we want to create it's almost like the Veterans Committee, like a special category, and super excited to get Vince Lloyd in.
Very smart.
And Vince, you campaign and champion because you probably played with some of those players in the teens, those older players and older personalities, and Bruce always pounds the table for, we can't neglect those who were here 30, 50, 70 years ago. Each year, postseason, we get together and talk about qualified players. Our great team historian Ed Hardig puts together an exhaustive list with
So, first off, good on Bruce on having that new category where we can recognize players that are from times where people may not remember, and sometimes it's overlooked. So Tom usually comes out and kind of gives his little spiel about, this year's CubsCon, et cetera, and that was the first name that was announced, which was, as you heard Bruce say, Vince Lloyd. Now, when you talk about Vince Lloyd, how on God's green earth was he not in? So let me break down this first. There's been 3 different iterations of the Cubs Hall of Fame, right? So this most recent one was in 2022. Does that make sense? But they've had other ones in the past, and so when they restarted doing this again, I think that it's going to be different. So what you had is this original Cubs Hall of Fame. They came up with this idea in 1982. They did it 1982, 83, 84, 85, 86. Then they did the Cubs Walk of Fame, which used to be banners hanging. I don't know if you remember that, Dustin. They used to have these banners hanging down, 92, 98. And then they stopped doing that. And then when they rebooted it in 2022, that's when they took all of those people that were in those original Cubs Hall of Fame and put plaques and put them underneath the left fielder bleachers, okay? And so in 2022, they reboot this thing. That was Pat Hughes, Buck O'Neill, and Jose Cardinal. But then after that, 2023 CubsCon, when CubsCon came back, that's when they started to announce it at Cubs Convention. And so, to have Vince Lloyd in there, that was just a huge, how you can overlook that for so many Cub fans, older Cub fans, people like my dad especially. Dustin, he broadcast for 4 decades, 34 seasons as a Cubs broadcaster.
Definite omission.
Yeah, 54.
I'm glad Bruce probably is the one who. Yeah, Bruce is probably the one who banged the table loud enough, and Ed Hardig, and they got the job done. So good. Yep. The video was very cool that they put up, and I remember my mother talked about him and about how my grandfather really liked his broadcast. Didn't he also do a bunch of Blackhawks too? I believe at one point.
Yeah, all of those guys. When you talk about Brickhouse and Lloyd, they used to bounce around and do cross sport all the time.
They weren't just your Cubs, Bears, Bulls, Blackhawks. They were multi-talented individuals. And I know you are, Jody Davis, that's one of your guys.
Yeah, he's a personal friend of mine. This is not just a player I grew up, obviously he's a player I grew up loving, but this is a guy
you've gotten to know over the years, right?
Gotten to know over the years through Club 400.
He's been on this podcast before.
Charities. He's been on this podcast. And when you talk about everything about Rizzo in this class, because, okay, it's the anniversary of 2016, I was really upset when Jody didn't make it in 2024. Okay. And so I want to say that was was that Dunstan Grace? So Dunstan Grace, or was that, I'm trying to think, 24 was, 24 was Kerry Wood and Aramis Ramirez. I was upset, not because I didn't think Aramis and Kerry Wood were deserving. I just felt that was a special year, the 40th anniversary of the 1984 team. They were going to do the statue for Rhino. In my head, the two guys that were going to be Cub Hall of Famers that year were going to be Jody Davis and Leon Durham. I felt like that kind of, but I felt that Jody for sure, being a top 3 in every statistical catching category that exists, how is he not in the Cubs Hall of Fame? I thought he was really overlooked that year. So for me, and this is a picture I took of Jody, and you can see that smile on his face. What an absolute honor to hear the crowd chanting Jody, Jody, the way we used to when we were kids, Dustin.
Yeah, that was
Great
very cool.
moment.
Yeah, he looked very pleased. He looked happy. I was happy for him. I was happy for you because I know that you have the relationship with him, and of course you're just about to show a slide there, and this Lester looked good for himself, and I don't know that I've ever seen him smile as much as we saw him smile.
He was happy, and again, what an honor. I mean, arguably the man that changed this is the guy. Without John Lester, the Cubs don't win the World Series. That was the domino. And the 2016 Cubs talked about it. He was the one, that if you don't get him, and I know some people are going to roll their eyes, you're not going to get Jason Hayward. You're not going to get Ben Zobrist. You're not going to get all of these, John Lackey, David Ross. You're not going to get the buy-in from these guys that are going to make an important part of the 2016 team. And so I think all in all, it's a great moment to see that. And then so to see Jody and John Lester and Mr. Ricketts all there, great moment. So I was definitely excited about that.
And that'll be a weekend that Cub fans won't want to miss when the official part of this goes down. They get the blue jackets and whatnot.
Yeah, that's going to be usually in September.
Yeah. All right, let's talk about Alex Bregman, Nico Horner, Matt Shaw. That was kind of the newsiest items, if you will, little news coming out of CubsCon.
Yeah, the Cubs introduced Alex Bregman as the newest member on the Cubs on Thursday. I was hoping they would do it at CubsCon on Friday or Saturday, but showed off his new jersey number. And Dustin, he was previously number 2. He changed for number 3. That's got to be a good sign for keeping Nico, right?
It makes sense to me.
Maybe. He said he won 3 championships. I forgot how many times he mentioned winning in his press conference. I mean, if it was
that could have been a drinking game. Yeah. You'd still have a headache, Crawly, if that was a drinking game.
Yeah, we would have been passed out. But like you said, that's the question. Of course, Cub fans were absolutely ecstatic to see Bregman kind of come out, and so here was Alex with the fancy pants right there coming out, but big smile on his face. And then of course we got Nico Horner. God, great head of hair that guy has. I'm jealous on that. And then
a lot of the Cubs have good hair. Matt
Shaw. Here's Matt Shaw. And so Bregman obviously was a big hit. It was fun hearing him talk with Ian Happ on the compound. That compound had great guests. They had Bregman, Kerry Wood, Anthony Rizzo. So really fun to see that. And, like I said, he just looks – the thing about Bregman is he's a baseball rat. And what I mean by that is there are certain guys that just live, eat, breathe baseball. That's Alex Bregman. Like, he doesn't – I don't know if he has any other interest or cares or thoughts. It's always about baseball. And, he reminds me a lot. This is what, if you read the book, The Cubs Way, it's a great book about the 2016 Cubs. That's what Theo thought about Kyle Schwarber. Like, this is a guy that just loves baseball, bleeds baseball. That's just what's on his mind 24/7. And so it's just a question of what's going to happen with all of these guys. Nico Horner said, do you think you're going to be giving up any playing time? And Nico's, hell no. Nico's not giving up playing time on his last year. You know what I mean? He's not expecting that to happen. Yeah. And then
he talked about he doesn't want any days off. He doesn't want to have to get off his feet, to give Matt Shaw a chance. I don't think that's pointed at Matt Shaw. It's just letting everybody know how he feels.
That's his spot. He feels he's earned it. He's a Gold Glover. He's not taking days off. And so here is what Craig Counsell had to say about what he expects for Matt Shaw.
Yeah, I mean, I talked to Matt. I think Matt's going to see time in the outfield. I think that's what we're looking at. We've talked about that. I've talked about that with Matt. I think that's going to be part of spring training.
What do you,
biggest news out of biggest news. Well, I think, if he can do it, maybe he is the Seiya Suzuki defensive replacement in the 8th and 9th inning. Maybe if you give PCA a couple days off, maybe Ian Happ's going into center field a couple times.
So here's what I'm going to say about
you don't
that,
like
Dustin.
those ideas? The hesitation. I thought maybe the internet broke or something. Our connection broke.
No, look, this is a really, this is a kid that's trying to learn how to hit in the big leagues. When you talk about Matt Shaw, how easy is it going to
sit on the bench? That's the problem, right?
That's the problem. And the other problem is that it's hard when you're grabbing 3 different gloves all the time. Are you the third baseman? Are you coming in for short? You're coming in for second. You're coming in for outfield. People think, oh, you just be a super sub. Guys like Ben Zobrist, that's what made them unicorns. That's what made them so valuable. Zobrist wasn't the best hitter in the league ever, but he was a really good hitter that could play multiple positions and can go everywhere. And even when he signed, he's like, I want to play second base. I don't want to be doing the super sub thing anymore. It's not something that players like. Now, let me also say, right field is one of the most difficult positions to play. And this is, we got someone asking right here, Steve Bartowski, could they turn Shaw into new Zobrist? That's not easy. And I think that his offense will take a hit if he does that. And Andre Dawson, I've interviewed him on this podcast. I've interviewed him in other places. He talked about how difficult it is to play right field. It's like, oh, play right. It is really hard. Seiya Suzuki, let's not forget this, was Defensive Player of the Year in Japan. Kyle Tucker, Gold Glover in the American League. Did either of those guys look comfortable in right field to you, Dustin?
No. But also remember,
so
Suzuki's splits are better when he's in the field than he is as just a DH.
All I'm saying is that you have 2 guys that were considered high quality defenders. That's what they were. That's what Suzuki is. He's an outfielder. That's what Tucker is. He's an outfielder. You're going to take an infielder and put him in right field with the wind and the sun and all the good luck, man.
I'm just saying, it doesn't mean it's going to happen. I think the news is that they're willing to do it, right? They're willing to take a shot at it. I don't think that means it's going to happen, but I think if anything, would you have rather have heard them say, and they would have never said this, but would you have rather have heard them say, there is no place for Matt Shaw on this team at this moment? He's probably going to Iowa, or we're going to trade him. Would you rather say that?
I think you say we're going to, all options are on the table with Matt Shaw, where we're looking to see how he best fits the team.
But isn't all options on the table mean he's got a glove in his hand in the outfield? Again, I thought that was news. I thought that was interesting.
I think
I'm not saying it's easy. I'm not saying everybody can do it, but would you rather see? Yeah, would you rather who's the next outfielder coming up?
Kevin Alcantara.
He played a little, right? Crawly. I'm just saying he did nothing for me last year, nothing. And I know they didn't get a real shot.
Playing time. Yeah,
I understand, but I here's the thing. I think you can get away like with a Matt Shaw, because then you don't have to keep bringing Alcantara back and forth. If somebody goes down for a couple of days or needs a breather, I think this makes sense. I think this makes baseball sense. It's not somebody you want to play out there every day.
This is going to make you upset.
Ian Happ's going to go on the injured list. Okay. I don't want it to be a 6-week run of Matt Shaw in left field. No, I don't.
This is going to make you upset, but I'm just going to say it. There was a time, I want to say it was 2024, and it was a game in April, and Justin Steele was on the mound and had a great game, and they thought that they would put Miles Mastroboni in right field as a defensive replacement late in the game, and he absolutely botched it.
Oh, yeah.
They botched. He botched a play, and people were livid. It is just not going to. It's not going to. I just don't like this idea. I think it's going to affect Shaw negatively. How about experimenting with?
They need another outfielder then, right?
I think Alcantara is your guy. Well, Alcantara, if you're talking about defense, Dustin, if you're talking about defense, Kevin Alcantara is not that much worse than, or not that much below PCA. He is a phenomenal defender. He just hasn't had a chance to show it. Quentin Farmer says, what about Shaw DHing? I'm sure he'll DH in spring. I'm sure that's going to be the kind of the role that you kind of look at it with Saya there, and then maybe platooning Shaw and Moises
If Shaw's
Ballesteros.
DHing, I mean, God, they're in big trouble if Shaw's DHing, unless all of a sudden his bat just wakes the hell up. I mean, that's, I mean, I appreciate that's Ballesteros' role. I mean, come on.
Ballesteros would be facing righties.
Right. Right.
I'm just trying to figure things out, Dustin. This is not, I mean, this is just stuff we're going to have to figure out, but
oh yeah,
I'm just telling you, Shaw in right field. If you're telling me I feel confident in that, the answer is no. If you're talking, would you rather see Seiya Suzuki in right field or Matt Shaw in right field? Seiya Suzuki every day of the week plus Sunday.
Yeah. All right, let's get into the 2016 reunion. No bigger buzz at CubsCon than that.
No, sir. That was something. And the buzz, Dustin, really started on Thursday when they had the reunion at the 1914 club at Wrigley Field. And Dustin, oh my gosh. I mean, it was to me just stunning when I looked at the pictures and the stuff coming in on social media. When I look at it, they had 19 of the 25 World Series roster there. What are the odds of that? Guys that I did not think were going to show up were there. Javi Baez was there. Kyle Schwarber was there. Theo Epstein, Joe Madden, Aaron Hinsky. I mean, a number of the coaching staff and more were there for that party. And from the sounds of it, Dustin, it was a party. The 6 Cubs that were not there, Carl Edwards Jr. was surprising because he was on the original CubsCon promotional materials as being there. Jake Arrieta had a conflict. And I'm like, look, unless it's someone's funeral, I don't know why he wasn't there. Hector Rondon was having some issues. He's in Venezuela right now. Wilson Contreras, the only catcher not there. Jorge Soler, the only outfielder from that team not there. And the only infielder that didn't make it was Chris Bryant, Dustin, which caused a lot of controversy.
Yeah, a lot of, who wasn't allowing him, who was allowing him. Yeah, who the hell knows?
So let's put it this way. Number one, Chris Bryant, if it was up to him, he'd be there. No doubt about it, he'd be there. Just like Schwarber was, just like Aroldis Chapman was there. Javi Baez were there. All these guys are under contract. They weren't coming to the van convention. They were going to a private dinner.
Right. And they're not allowed to go to. They're not allowed to go to the fan convention because they work for another team.
But the private dinner, absolutely. Sure. So if it was the Rockies, then shame on them. There really was
more confused. I'm more confused about Jake Arrieta because he stuck his head up. He was around during the playoffs. That's the one that's a little confusing.
It's confusing to me as well. I'm wondering what the conflict was, but who knows? But as we talked about John Lester getting the Cubs Hall of Fame and then the introductions, we talked about that being less than stellar, not having it introduced. But again, we all did smile when they came out. And me seeing Rizzo holding that trophy up with John Lester behind him. It's a picture I took from CubsCon. That reminded me very much when they walked out from behind the underneath the right field bleachers and they all came out with the trophy. That was just an amazing moment. Just seeing those guys, Dexter, all those guys smiling. Joe Madden, I didn't think that we didn't know Joe Madden was going to be there until the very end. And then the other thing, Dustin, was what about this? He was at the Ryan Dempster show off the mound.
He
with
was
Ryan
a guest
Dempster.
on Ryan Dempster's show. Yes. Mm-hmm.
I mean, that was just to me just stunning that they would let him talk, and he was great. You know how much I loved listening to Joe Madden talk. Of course, Travis Wood was in the same camo vest with no shirt as he was in the parade. So Travis Wood
put a shirt on. Put a shirt.
No, you can't. Not him. That has to be no shirt. I would have been upset if Travis Wood was wearing a shirt. That's what it's about. That reminded me. That was what he did there. And then off the mound, he had all the guys. If you take a look here, you had Fowler, you had Lester, you had Rizzo, David Ross, Jason Hayward.
That's who I'm most surprised about, David Ross. I'm more surprised about David Ross than I am about Joe Madden.
And John Lackey. John Lacking's a stunning one too. He never does.
He never says anything, right? I mean, that's all his buddy in front of him there. It gets him to do some stuff, but yeah, he never says a word.
I think that was both of it, Dustin. I think that's with David Ross, and I think it's with Travis Wood. This was about celebrating John Lester.
Absolutely right. 100% right. Good pickup. And they are going to celebrate that 2016 team with a monument. We got a little breaking news during Inside the Clubhouse when Crane Kenny was on with Bruce and David. I was alongside those guys. It's going to be a celebration in July And there's going to be a big monument. Every single person, Crane said, involved in that team will be remembered somehow.
Yep, we got the audio right here. So this is what Crane had to say about the monument.
The best moment Thursday night.
We're all about, I've always been about, the score is all about breaking news, okay? So let's have some breaking news. Is there the possibility that the 2016 team will have a statue dedicated to them by the Chicago Cubs sometime soon?
Great question. So the statue issue is kind of staring us in the face every day because there's a podium without one. And if you look at, go to Statue Row and Gallagher Way, there's all of our greats and then one that's waiting for a statue. We decided not to do a statue for the team because it would highlight 1, 2, maybe up to 5 players. The most memorable photo is the last out and the gathering on the mound, which would be great for us all, the 5 or 6 players that were in that photo, but it wouldn't really represent. And if you think about Game 7 in particular, every single person on the roster contributed, even if it was Alberto Mora tagging up on an important play, in the game. We used, as you know, everyone in the bullpen. And so how we looked at how could we capture the enormity and the comprehensiveness of that team in one statue. So we are going to do a different monument that will feature all of the players. It will be a permanent and much larger than statue monument, and we'll unveil that in July. And I think it'll be very fitting for those players to, when they see it, I think they're going to say that was a really solid representation of their work.
Just to clarify, it won't necessarily have a few players in it. It'll be more encompassing than that?
It'll include every player and every member of the team, because the other thing is, and the players will be the first to say it, yes, obviously the fans focus on the players.
Big statue.
It doesn't happen without Joe Madden. It doesn't happen without Chris Bosio. It doesn't happen, you go through the whole list. And so I think we'll be more inclusive than just the players on the field.
I mean, so my understanding is this monument will be leading into the entrance of Gallagher Way by the corner of Clark and Addison. So when you go to the marquee, if you turn a left to get into Gallagher Way, that is where we're going to see the new monument.
Yeah, very cool.
What it looks like, I have no idea. I'm excited to see what it looks like. But I got to ask you, Dustin, if everything that happened with Addison Russell, with the domestic violence allegations, et cetera, I wonder how much that played into the decision not to do that final statue of that iconic image of everybody jumping together at the mound. And I wonder how much that had to do with not calling players out individually this year for 2016.
Well, I am still shocked that I'm not shocked that he was at the Thursday gathering. I am shocked that he was there Friday night.
Right. I wonder how much that affected all of those things. Is Addison going to be on this? It sounds like everyone's going to be on this monument. So definitely, like I said, happy to see the 2016 team. We'll never forget them. And that weekend, when they do have it, is going to be that series against the Minnesota Twins, which is also going to coincide with my birthday party. So it's a party for the 2016 Cubs and Crawly. But in all reality, in all honesty, it's going to be fun. And I hope that, I'm sure the Cubs are going to do it right. They've done a great job with the Statue Row. They've done a great job with Gallagher Way. They've done a great job with a lot of the renovations. I'm hoping this will be more of the same.
You're listening to the Fly the W podcast, part of the Blue Wire Network. Don't forget to listen, download, review, subscribe, leave those 5-star reviews. You can also email us at Crawly's Clubhouse, gmail.com. And don't forget, you can watch us, as some of you are right now, Crawly's Clubhouse YouTube page. It is episode number 332, Crawly, a Cubs Con review 2026, the reunion. Obviously, a ton of the talk so far has been about the great weekend, but some dominoes fell even after the Alex Bregman deal was announced. So let's take a look at some other news around the league.
Yeah, we were just waiting for the domino to fall, and boy, did they fall. And it really starts with Alex Bregman, right? Boston was so certain They're going to get Alex Bregman. Alex Bregman signs with the Cubs, and Boston pivots and gives one of the top free agent pitchers, Ranger Suarez, 5 years, $130 million. Now, Bo Bichette goes to the Mets. He's not going to go with Boston. The Phillies are livid. And that is going to be, the Mets and Phillies, how much they hate each other. That is going to add more fuel to that fire, because Bo Bichette goes to the Mets on a 3-year, $126 million deal. That causes the Phillies to then go back to old pal JT Realmuto, 3-year, $45 million deal. But Dustin, the biggest news was former Cub Kyle Tucker. Where's he going to sign? Toronto, this, that. 4-year, $240 million deal with the Dodgers. That includes an opt-out after the second and third year, a $64 million signing bonus. $30 million of that $240 million is deferred. But Dustin, I know you were middle school, or what was it, city school educated, all that fun stuff.
Yep.
4 years, $240 million.
Yep.
$60 million a year.
Yeah, it's ridiculous. Good luck with that, Dodgers. You can have them. I wouldn't want him on the Cubs for half of that. Okay. He didn't like it here. They didn't like him. Fine. Good. Okay.
Dustin,
it's ridiculous. It's almost disgusting.
He's going to make more than the entire 25-man roster of the Cardinals.
Yeah. And a couple other teams too, Crawly.
I mean, this is
why there's going to be a labor issue. This is why that we're going to have these things, because the Dodgers are doing things. I mean, I would imagine the other owners hate the Dodgers ownership group, hate them.
Well, we're talking about, I think they have $2.2 billion on the books, Dustin.
Right. And the next team is like the Padres at like 1.5.
I mean, is just.
That's what Crane also talked about. But like when we were all mad at the Yankees, Crawly, okay, when we were mad at the Yankees, it was like 4 times. The Dodgers are like 10 or 11 times in spending versus the teams at the bottom. That can't happen. It's not feasible. So there's a lot of work to be done.
There is, and this is just, I mean, they're now the evil empire. When you talk about the Yankees, the Dodgers are now the evil empire. Oh, yeah. I mean, they have the most hated team in baseball.
And the idea of ruining baseball, right? The idea of ruining baseball, they're trying. They are trying to do that.
Every time you see the Dodgers name mentioned, or whether even if they don't sign it, but it's just like, who are they not getting? And honestly, I just think for Kyle Tucker, great spot to go. Nobody, you know what I mean? He's going to be like, what, the 4th?
Good for him. Hitter. Listen, am I envious and jealous? You better believe it. Absolutely. Good for him. That is just, I just don't understand what they saw. I just don't understand what they saw that I didn't see. Short-term
deals. What you saw, Dustin, again, let's not go revisionist history. When he's healthy, April, May, he was, one of the best players.
Oh, he carried him. I mean, he carried him. He carried him to get to that jump out to that great start. No doubt. He's got a beautiful swing. He's got a beautiful swing. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And do you know the last lefty to hit 40 home runs at Wrigley Field?
We went over this before, but I forget.
Billy Williams.
And think about how long ago that was. And if you watch CubsCon, he was coming out using a bat as kind of a cane.
And he did his swing, but I'm just saying it's not a place that left-handed power hitters do well, but he even had 20 home runs. You know what I mean? Had he not been injured, could he have had 40? So that's what they see. But here's the thing. When Kyle Tucker got injured for the Cubs, they remained a 500 team the rest of the year, right? If Kyle Tucker gets injured for the Dodgers, they're fine. No big deal. They'll keep moving on. They'll keep rolling. It doesn't affect him. So he doesn't have to be the guy. He's literally like the 3rd or 4th guy. And I think that's how he was successful in Houston. I do think he's a guy that hits for power, but also, takes walks, all those great things. He's a great player to have. I just wouldn't want him to be my centerpiece. I wouldn't want him to be my Juan Soto. I wouldn't want him to be the man on a team. That would just be my opinion on that.
All right. And we've got a Baseball Hall of Fame announcement coming up, correct? Somebody's going to join Jeff Kent in Cooperstown.
Someone is joining Jeff Kent in Cooperstown. This is the Baseball Hall of Fame ballot, and there's a lot of guys that are probably not going to make it. We know that, but some first-time Hall candidates. Former Cub Cole Hamels. Remember, he was the one that also no-hit the Cubs, ending their longest franchise no-hit streak. Ryan Braun, the cheater, he's not getting in. Alex Gordon, Sin-Soo Choo, Edwin Encarnacion, Hunter Pence, Matt Kemp, Rick Porcello, Daniel Murphy, Howie Kendrick, Nick Markakis, and Gio Gonzalez. Dustin, I think it's clear that none of these guys here are going to be first ballot Hall of Famers. Do you see any of these guys potentially getting in the future?
No, not really. No.
Yeah, I'm
kind of again. This is the Hall of Good. I mean, it's barely Hall of Very Good, let alone Hall of Fame.
So those guys
that list does not move the needle for me at all.
Okay, guys that are coming back again: Mark Burley, Carlos Beltran, Bobby Abreu, Felix Hernandez, Torrey Hunter, Andrew Jones, Dustin Pedroia, Alex Rodriguez, Manny Ramirez not going to get in, Andy Pendant not going to get in, Francisco Rodriguez, Jimmy Rollins, Chase Utley, Omar Vizquel, and David Wright. Are there any guys here that you see hitting the 75% mark?
Maybe a couple of those infielders. Chase Utley, maybe, but again, if you're a Hall of Famer, or you're not. It does nothing. You again, class of good, not Hall of Fame, in my opinion.
So if I'm looking at this, me personally, I'd be watching. I'm very curious to see if Andrew Jones finally gets in. That would be a guy
that talks about that.
Yeah, the skipper.
Skipper.
Andrew Jones is the one I think probably is most likely to get it. I would say watch Chase Utley and Dustin Pedroia. Those are the infielders I think you're probably thinking about as well.
Yeah, Utley was one on my mind. Yeah. At least they hit that 75. At least they hit that 75. And Pedroia is a great guy, but Hall of Famer, right? I mean, I don't know that he's a. I don't know that he's a Hall of Famer, Crawly. So the next time we get together, we will dive into who is joining Jeff Kent. So, Crawly, that is a wrap. Don't forget to listen, download, review, subscribe to the Fly the W podcast. Email us your thoughts or questions at crawlysclubhouse@gmail.com. And you can watch us, as some of you are, by subscribing.
Dustin, we have breaking news.
Uh-oh.
Our friend Steve Scher, Beltran and Andrew Jones get announced as in.
Wow.
So Carlos Beltran and Andrew Jones are the guys. We're going to have to take a look. Our friend Mason Watts also on saying the same thing.
Maybe Bobby Cox will give him the speech. He'll bench him or something fun like that. Yeah,
but that's breaking news. So we'll have more to talk about that later. We'll look at the percentages. Thanks for everybody that was watching. Everyone that came up at CubsCon, it was great. Bill Watts. I saw Quentin Farmer was at CubsCon. Great. He makes these great kind of like frames for pins. If you're a Cub fan, they look like bases. They're very good. Steve Bartkowiak, hope I didn't mangle it. My friend Janet Tabbitt, she's a great Cub fan. She's always watching out for Ronnie Woo. Tyler Hassler was on here. We had a lot of people on today. Jonathan Evans, my buddy. So we had Denise Vasquez. Hope your health is doing well, Denise. So just a great crew of people in here today, jumping in on the chat. Follow on Crawly's Clubhouse at youtube.com. And it was a fun weekend at CubsCon. Let's see where it goes next. Go Cubs!
It's all over.